Hello and welcome to the Related to Geeks podcast, the podcast about a geeky family. This is episode 9, original air date November 26, 2015, also known as Turkey Day. Hello, my name is Megan, and I will be your host this evening. I am the youngest of the siblings, and with us tonight is my brother Kier.
Hello.
My sister Sarah.
Hello.
And our dad, Robot Dad.
Yahoo!
Worth it. All right, so we're going to get into the podcast. We're going to start things off with what's caused us to geek out lately. We'll go into our topic of the week after that, and then we'll wrap things up with our picks of the week. So starting us off, let's do, well, after that, I have to pick Robot Dad because that was quite the entrance. So, Robot Dad, what's caused you to geek out lately?
Well, I've been writing a program. I'm using my backup system and the LAN stack, the Apache web server on my backup system, so I'm writing it on my LAN, and I'm writing it in PHP, and I'm calling it Personal Task Manager, and it grew out of the last podcast when we were discussing schedulers and the different type and Habitica and different types of schedulers people have used. And I did write a scheduler before in Lindybeige that I installed for my clients to use when they had computer jobs that needed done 3 times a week or once a month or whatever. And so it's kind of similar to that, but it's a completely new thing, a complete rewrite, and it's a very minimalist type thing. It supervises tasks by date. So it's not an hour and minute scheduler, and there's no alarms. Instead of alarms, I just start a cron job, and turns out you can just use the word Firefox and then your link, and run that at 5 a.m. so that it's active when I hit the computer in the morning. And it supports tasks and reminders, and tasks are sticky until you click done. So if you don't do a task today, it's still going to be there tomorrow. But reminders are not sticky, but both can recur or can be once only. Let's see. My recurring possibilities. Bring up my new task screen. And once only or daily. And you also have a weekly where you're reminded on either Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. A monthly when you're reminded on a certain day of the month. A yearly when you're reminded on a certain date of the year, like a birthday or an anniversary. And I have also every N days. So that would be like 14 days for once every 2 weeks, or 5 days if you had a maintenance task that needed done every 5 days, clean the filter or whatever it is. But, I'm also have this one that I haven't implemented yet, but I know how. Monthly events are often not on a particular date, but they're like the first Monday, the third Wednesday, 5th Sunday. So that's going to be my final recurring feature in my personal task manager.
Well, you've already got Habitica beat, which is right now my leading complaint about it, is that your scheduling options are day of the week, specific date, or X days, and that's it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, X days give you weekly. The other thing about the thing I implemented this morning, and what I'm doing is I'm using it and programming it at the same time. So the thing I implemented this morning is that when you pick weekly, the first thing it does is check whether you're on the right day of the week. In other words, if I pick every Sunday, it checks whether the enter date, which defaults to today, is Sunday or not. So I don't have to worry about what day Sunday is on. I just pick Sunday, and then whenever I save it, it jumps forward until it finds a Sunday, and then that's the first Sunday. The next Sunday that's up will be the first time I get reminded of. And also, it shows all of the reminders in a list. So starting at the top, the stuff I haven't done yet that I haven't clicked on, and then today's stuff, and then on into the future. So I could work right into the future all off a single screen.
Yeah, I've actually seen it in person as he's been working on it, and I like the list format, and there's little check boxes next to it, and it's just a real clean format, and it's, something I work well with. I do really well with lists.
It's not pretty.
It's not pretty, but it's functional.
It's just text, yeah. I mean, there's check boxes and there's buttons, but there's no graphics to it whatsoever. And one interesting thing about this project is doing almost all of the date arithmetic with text, dates, and logic. There's a few cases like where you recur every n days that it's better to use the date function. But a lot of stuff like day of the month and stuff like that is kind of hard to do with the date function. So yeah. I just have an odometer, it just rolls over, when it's at the end of the month, and just do all the math on the text. And PHP is good at that because it's not strongly typed. So if you have a text string that's 19 and you add 1 to it, you get 20, and then you add it into a string, and you got a string again.
Yeah, the string to time function in PHP is also really helpful for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I use that too. But when I am using the date, add so many days, that's and mostly I just found little snippets on the internet to do things like that. But all the logic code I just wrote myself. And when I'm done, which will be very soon, because it's really just about done now, I will post it to the internet, and it will be licensed GPL. It's just for one person, you know what I'm saying? There is a multi-user thing. It's not for a big office, and you have to run it on a web server, and not everybody has their own web server on their LAN. But still, we'll get to the pick of the week. Just some options there.
The one more thing that I would add to that is that when I was young and learning how to program, you taught me that there were 3 basic methods of development. And there was the top-down approach, the bottom-up approach, and the flailing around method. And it sounds like the flailing around method is our chosen method of development.
Yeah. Well, I really think this was bottom up. There was a kind of an idea that there would be a list and an entry screen, and that would be the whole program. But then I just started putting it in place, and I developed the functions I needed as I needed them. So the first thing I did was write a function that would bring a daily event that was now in the past that needed to occur up to today, because that took no data arithmetic at all, just turning today into a string, and so then I was able to get my list working in my all my logic and everything in place, and the more functions were in a set. And then I just went one thing at a time, added one little thing at a time. Some of it was tricky and some wasn't, but none of it was really hard.
Very cool, very cool. All right, so next we have, who do I want to go next? I'm going to go with Sarah, since I don't think you talked at all during that last discussion. What's caused you to geek out lately?
I'm actually going to talk about not what's caused me to geek out lately, but what my family has been geeking out about lately, because I feel like I have been drug into what they're geeking out about. So, we watched a bunch of Lindybeige when Kier talked about Lindybeige, however many episodes ago, and Liz decided shortly after watching a bunch of Lindybeige that instead of buying a new coat this year, she wanted to make a cloak, because he talked about a cloak and how great cloaks were. So we went and bought her a wool blanket a little while back, and some leather for a buckle and all kinds of stuff. So she's starting to work on building a cloak for this winter. So she's having some fun with that, and I don't know. I think it'll be interesting. We do have codes. It's not like if it doesn't work out as well as she hopes it does, we don't have something. But it's getting cold here now, so she's been procrastinating on it, or we've been procrastinating on helping her with it, whichever way you want to look at it. So this weekend, when we dropped below freezing, it was like, okay, well, it's time to do that. So that's what she's been geeking out about.
Well, not only are cloaks warm, but they are extremely geeky.
They are pretty geeky.
Yes.
They're definitely that.
I like them because they're basically just walking around with a blanket wrapped around you at all times.
Yeah. and she's not using it. I mean, it's going to be, like, the leather's going to be stitched on so that she doesn't have to worry about, like, sticking stuff through it like a pin or anything. All she has to do is just do a buckle. We decided to go that route, and see how that works for her.
As someone who was heavily involved in the SCA at one point, I did have a cloak, and cloaks are really nice. And the nicest thing about cloaks is that you can share a cloak. You can't really share a coat, but you can share a cloak.
Yeah, I could say that.
And cloaks are extremely geeky. Walking around wearing a blanket is kind of like hippie.
Kind of like what?
Hippie.
Okay. I thought that's what you said, but you kind of cut out, so I wasn't sure.
I don't know why that tickled me so much. I think it's just coming from you, Dad.
The blanket is the poor man's cloak.
Yeah.
All right. So, cloak making. I don't have a lot to add to that. I've like sewn once in my life, and it basically was me pretending like I was sewing for about 5 minutes, and then Mom actually doing the sewing. So
Nice.
That's my experience.
I have one thing to add to that, and that's the emergency raincoat from a trash bag. I was down at Helena, and we were partying, and the band was playing and everything, and it started to rain, and we didn't care. We were still partying, and this guy just disappeared, and I thought he was hardcore. You know what I'm saying? And about 10 minutes later, he showed back up with a box of black trash bags, and we all cut a head hole in them and stuck our heads through, and it was kind of like a cloak, except it was closed at the front. And all of a sudden, we were just as warm as could be, and it didn't matter. It was raining, and we just went on partying.
Yeah, I remember doing that in Girl Scouts.
The trash bag, the poor man's blanket.
and then oh goodness. But yeah, and in fact, I think our camping list would say poncho or trash bag.
Yeah.
It was like in the camping.
And
which you took.
And if you're homeless, you can find trash bags in dumpsters. You just have to dump all the trash out.
Oh. So real quick, speaking of Girl Scouts, Wendy had her first Girl Scout meeting last week.
Oh, great.
Yep.
That was a big part of my youth. Big
it was
part.
A big part of Rosemary's youth, too. It was not a big part of mine.
I was a Girl Scout from day one.
I like the cookies.
Yeah. Girl Scouts are a big part of my adulthood.
And then, now that we're completely, totally off of what I started with.
Cloaks! Cloaks! Bringing it back around.
I was going to talk about, that was Lizzie's Geek Out these last couple of weeks. Devin, as long as I have known him, he's talked about wanting to learn to brew beer. And I think that we have watched, on average, about 10 YouTube videos a day over the last 2 weeks on how to brew beer, equipment for brewing beer. And I mean, he's really excited about it. I mean, he's doing more research on it right now than I ever remember him doing it, putting books on hold at the library, all kinds of stuff. We have watched. Wil Wheaton did a YouTube video where he brewed beer, so of course we had to watch that one. And he's been watching a lot of the videos from some of the beer brewing suppliers that they put out. So I don't know. It looks like probably sometime in the spring there will be some homebrewed beer in our life, which will be tasty.
I, for one, would like to say that I fully support this geeky endeavor.
Jack Scott and I used to brew beer, and it's not hard.
So when you make your first batch and it's crap, feel real dumb.
No. I never knew how good our beer was because we always drank it while it was still green. And it wasn't that good, but it was good enough to drink.
It's all it takes. Just got to be good enough to drink. Doesn't have to be good, just good enough to drink.
I think he's found out that it's not as hard as what he originally thought when he was first looking it up. It was like everything was really intimidating to him. And so he did a little bit of research and then went, you know what, this might not be for me right now. And something happened to reignite that interest over the last little bit. And he's found that the equipment isn't as expensive and it's not as hard as he had originally thought. I think has been a big part of why we've watched a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I recently went out with some friends and went in on a kit together, and I've talked to Devin about this, because as you said, this is what he's been obsessed with in the last couple of weeks, and the kit is really like kind of like a cake mix versus scratch, and so we did the cake mix approach, and it was actually a really nice way to spend an afternoon. And we sat down and drank some beers from the last batch that the guy made, and we all chipped in on the kit together and all chipped in on the work together, and in the end we all split the beer, and it came out cheaper and better than most of the craft beer that I have bought at stores. So I highly recommend this geeky endeavor.
Yeah, and of course, I think he's probably talked to you about this too, but he's really wanting to do from grains and not do extracts and all of that. So of course, that's going to add a little bit of equipment and a little bit of time and all of that to it. But one of the books, I actually was the one that put the books on hold for him at the library, because he just kind of texted me one day and he goes, "Can you see if the library has anything?" And of course, our library doesn't, but stuff within the system does. And so one of the books that I found was something along the lines of 250 beer recipes from grains or something like that. So that'll be interesting to look through whenever it comes in. It takes forever for stuff to come through our system, but it'll be. And I think when I can sit down and with a book, I might become a little more invested, especially if there's like a recipe book. So I like recipes.
Yeah. Sarah, I know you're a history geek, and the argument has been made that beer was the beginning of civilization for mankind.
There was a documentary, right, Kier? Is that?
Yeah, how beer saved the world.
Yeah.
Beer led to agriculture, not agriculture led to beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Devin watched that. I did not watch that, but I kind of remember that you recommended it to him, and he watched it quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
And he's been trying to get me to watch it, and I just haven't sat down to do it, so I guess I should do that at some point.
Yeah, I can't find it anywhere now. So,
and
because I can watch it again.
The famous expert on beer, Mr. Homer Simpson, said, "Beer, the cause of and the solution to all of men's problems."
Yeah, it's about right. But it is tasty.
Yeah, I like good beer.
Doesn't have to be good. It just has to be good enough.
Anymore, it has to be good.
It's one of those things that you're fine with something until you have something really good, and then you're like, okay, well, that just ruined that for me. And beer is one of those things.
Yeah. Somebody.
Cheese is another one. Cheese, that like those little cheap blocks of cheese just don't taste very good to me now. I mean, some of them taste a little bit like wax.
Somebody once compared beer to soda, and the fact that there's so many sodas out there. And, there's a lot of soda that's drinkable enough, but everybody tends to have their kind of go-to soda. And I thought that was a good comparison to those who just haven't had enough beer to find their go-to beer. Because I feel like there's enough beer out there that even people who don't particularly like beer will eventually find one that has the right flavor to like it.
Yeah, I have a favorite beer right now. It is very good beer.
Okay, clue us in.
What?
Kier's actually had it. It's actually from a brewery up in St. Louis called Urban Chestnut, and it's kind of funny how we even ended up happening on this beer. We went to a game day in St. Louis, and it was originally scheduled at the game store, but there was some sort of conflict, so they moved it to the Urban Chestnut. And we didn't even have beer that day. We just ate and then played games. And months later, and this was almost a year ago that we went to this game day, we were just kind of perusing Walmart in the beer section, and Devin noticed there was one that said Urban Chestnut on it. And he's like, huh. And the guy that we went up there with had some of the beer, and he's like, it was really good. So they have one called Wingnut, which is a brown ale. And I really like it a lot. It's one of my absolute favorites that I've ever had, and it's one that I can get locally. So it's my favorite.
Get me some.
Okay.
I like brown ales.
I do too. It's I like brown ale.
Every time I drive up, I try to stop by and pick up a 4-pack. And one of the things I like is not only is it a really good beer, but they serve it proper in pints.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
4-pack of 16-ounce bottles.
Yeah, because then you only have to drink one.
Yeah.
Really, that's all. That's a good amount to drink of that particular.
I really like it, and it's available. Like, I know that there's a distributor in Chicago. So it's available more than just locally, but it's still a very regional beer. So people living outside this area probably can't get it easily, but it's worth it if you're close to a place that has it.
So it's been suggested multiple times that we have the stargazing party, and we're finally going to do that real soon here. I think the next one needs to be a fancy beer and cheese party.
I am for that.
Fancy beer and cheese.
You can add some wine too, because I like wine as well. But and I know my mom likes wine better than beer, I think.
She doesn't drink it all anymore.
Does she not even drink wine anymore?
We've had this wine we've had since last Christmas.
Oh, gee. Okay.
I almost broke into it last time I was at their house. I was just like, if you're not going to drink it.
It's either going to be aged really good or it's going to be vinegar. We don't know.
I actually have a wine I've had in my fridge for like a year because we bought it because Devin's not a big wine drinker, but occasionally he'll find one he really likes. And we bought it because Devin really likes it. But because of his call schedule, I mean, he can only drink 50% of the days of the year. And it's one of those things that it's kind of a commitment to open a bottle of wine for just two people. I don't know why, but, it's high alcohol content, and we're not heavy drinkers. So it's just one of those things that unless I'm cooking with a wine, we rarely drink wine. Like, I'll cook with the wine and then we'll drink the rest of the bottle kind of thing with dinner or whatever. And this is not a good cooking wine, so it's just sat there in the fridge because...
Stargazing party, man. Just made better with wine.
I have to bring it out because he will not be on call that weekend, and we'll have people to share it with. So, and hopefully it won't be vinegar.
And just be like, whoa, Jupiter, man. Whoa.
It's also from a a Missouri vineyard, so that's always nice. I guess we're buying local.
All right. Occasionally, Rosemary and I will split a bottle of wine, which means that she has approximately a glass of wine, and I have approximately a bottle of wine.
I kind of know that story, except it's the other way around, where he'll have the glass, and I'll have the rest.
Our parents brought us up right. We know how to finish a bottle.
I tell you what, though, if I drink 3/4 of a bottle of wine, I am tipsy. It's I just don't drink enough. Okay, let's move on.
Well, yeah, cloaks and wine and all the in-betweens. Kier's up next.
All right. My big geek out as of late has been playing Dungeons and Dragons with kids. I've been doing that. I've done it 2 or 3 times in the last couple of weeks, and I've been reading up on it and talking to my friends and family about it and getting some advice. And playing role-playing games with kids is a different monster than playing with adults or teenagers. You've got to really keep them focused, and I find that the best thing is kind of a straightforward dungeon crawl where any interaction they have is going to be kind of an adversarial interaction. And that's because, I've been playing with a bunch of 10-year-old boys, and they are, by their nature, adversarial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, adults like puzzle games, but I think they might be a little hard to keep the kids focused on a puzzle game.
Yeah. Now, I'll tell you what. The kids were fine with puzzles. They liked trying to figure stuff out, and they liked thinking creatively. Like in one game, this kid, he's 9 or 10 years old, but they were fighting a bugbear, and he knew from basically what he had heard about from his dad and things like that bugbears were big and mean, and that they could really take out a first level character real easy. And he looked at his inventory, and he found that he had a piece of chalk. So he said, I'm going to crush the chalk in my hand and throw it in the bugbear's face. And because he treated the fight like a puzzle, they were able to get through that fight real easy, because then the bugbear was blinded for the fight. Whereas if he just charged in, he was a wizard, he would have been knocked out real quick.
Yeah, and you got to reward a kid for that creativity.
Yeah. And it worked out really well. The reason I think it's best for you to have adversarial roles is because a kid isn't really interested in role playing out a friendly interaction. They want to be adversarial by the nature of it. If they're finding a merchant, they'd rather fight the merchant or take the merchant's stuff than try to barter with the merchant or things of that nature. Whereas if they find a goblin, you can still do some role playing there, because they're trying to intimidate it or bribe it or scare it away or any number of things. It's okay to be adversarial.
So I ran not a D&D game. It was a Dungeon Crawl Classic game for ages, I guess at the time, 7 to, I think Liz was 13 at the time. So 7 to 13. And it was set in a prehistoric time. And I had given them, the task was their fire had run out in the village, and they had to go to where they could see smoke on an island that was nearby. And they lived in a fishing town. And there was a guy that had a boat. And they had asked if there was somebody that had a boat, and I said yes. And so they went and killed the guy and took the boat. And I mean, this was just, I was like, and then I don't remember when it was, but I don't know. It was like later, not even in that game, but months later. my nephew came to me and he goes, "We probably could have just asked to borrow that boat, huh?" I was like,
Well,
"Yeah, I'm pretty sure he would have loaned it to you to get fire."
probably would have been a lot better to have him navigate since it was his boat.
So it was just so weird because all of a sudden he was like, "Oh yeah, we probably could have just done that." But yeah, and it turned into this bloodbath where I was like, I hate PvP in games. I'm not a big fan with Dungeons and Dragons or those kind of games having PvP in them, and it turned into that, and I'm just like, well, they're having fun, and this was just going to be a little one-off adventure kind of thing anyway, so I just let him do it. But it was the youngest. He's like, nope, I'm leaving y'all behind, and I'm going to go get fire. So he just jumps in the boat and takes off. Well, the three oldest ones were, to the death. And, of course, this was treated as a DCC funnel, so everybody had 3 characters or whatever. So they had all kinds of characters to to kill off.
Yep.
It was a mess. But yeah, we probably could have just asked for it. We probably knew him, right?
Never really liked that guy anyhow.
Guess not.
Yeah. It's been my experience that it's not always the youngest who's what's the word I'm looking for? Most random or adversarial or at least mature. It is oftentimes the oldest at the table who is. I played a game with, a couple 13-year-old boys and a couple of dads and a 9-year-old girl. And the 9-year-old girl was by far the best player at the table. Like, I was just sitting there going, man, I could just invite her to my regular D&D group and be happy.
I find that usually what causes the worst, though, is when you have 2 friends play together. 2 kids who are friends play together. Because they really want to get at, under each other's skins oftentimes. So when you have two of them that are close to age, like if you had those 2 13-year-olds, I don't know if they were friends or not, but oftentimes the ones that are close to age that can get underneath each other's skins leads to the worst adversary.
Yeah. Didn't have that. I think one of the 13-year-olds played the brooding, dark anti-hero warrior, and the other one played and he was like real serious about the whole thing. And the other one played a rogue and named him Trusty McNaughty-Thief.
That's a good name.
Pretty awesome.
Okay, Megan, what's been causing you to geek out lately?
I have discovered this thing on YouTube, which is always the most dangerous thing to bring up. But it is a group of people who have rebranded YouTube into BookTube, which I feel like is the only one that I'm familiar with where they've actually rebranded the website and they're like on the BookTube, but it's a bunch of YouTubers who discuss books, and been watching a lot of reviews and quick looks and getting excited about reading. Unfortunately, if you remember last podcast where I talked about how I'm really busy and don't have a lot of time, it turns out that watching a 5-minute video doesn't take a huge amount of investment, but then going and reading the 5 books that they recommended in that 5-minute video, it doesn't balance very well. So I've been doing a lot of wish list making and very little reading so far. But I spent probably the better part of 2 hours with a friend in Barnes & Noble the other day, just going and every aisle I found 3 books that I had recently learned about, within the past couple of weeks learned about. So I apparently have spent too much time watching those videos. But I have been reading a little bit more. I'm hoping to get some more time. I feel like winter is the time where I just start to hunker down and just want to read. So Maybe that's the reason that I've navigated to this particular area of YouTube. So.
I just want to be clear here. What you're saying is you spent too much time watching videos about reading books, so you don't have time to read books.
Mm-hmm. No,
Okay.
here's the greatest thing. In college, I didn't want to read for class. But I still wanted to read, novels and such. But whenever I started trying to read, for myself, I felt guilty because I wasn't reading for class. So instead, I would just watch YouTube videos. So it all started back in college.
Oh, that sounds like a familiar story, except not reading, just with other stuff that I don't want to do. Yeah, it's easy to talk yourself into a 5-minute YouTube video that turns into 5-minute YouTube videos or whatever.
55-minute YouTube video.
55. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem with 5-minute YouTube videos turn into 3 hours of watch time for me often. But the three YouTubers I want to mention, and they all do a podcast together, which I support podcasts, so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to mention them. But their three separate channels are Katytastic, Jesse the Reader, and then my personal favorite YouTube channel name is polandbananasBOOKS. I just, you can't argue with that.
Oh, goodness.
BookTube.
But they all have really enjoyable, engaging videos and commentaries beyond just, I've found a few of them that just feel like, I'm just kind of, looking at it like a blog post of, recommended books rather than, getting entertained. And these people are really entertainers first and book reviewers and collectors second. I feel like even if you're not really interested in the books themselves, you still find their videos entertaining. So that's why I particularly wanted to recommend those three.
All right.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I used to be a very avid reader, and in the last few years, I think it's one of those things that I go through phases. I obviously, right after I left college, I didn't read a whole lot for a couple of years. Liz, of course, we've talked about this. She's a huge reader. She goes through multiple books in a week. And she checked out, speaking of YouTubers and books, she checked out The Fault in Our Stars from the library a couple of weeks ago. And I'm like, I'm going to read this. I made it through one chapter, and it's still sitting there with my bookmark at one chapter. I was like, I really need to just pick it up and read it. Yeah. I've read a couple of his books. I haven't read that one.
Definitely, in my opinion, it's the best of John Green's works.
I've read Looking for Alaska, and I've read An Abundance of Catherines, and I really liked Looking for Alaska. I don't remember much about An Abundance of Catherines, but I don't remember liking it nearly as much as I did Looking for Alaska.
Oddly enough, I feel like Looking for Alaska, which I believe was his first.
Yes, it was.
Is my second favorite.
Okay, so, and that's the one he won. He won the Prince Award for it, which is why it was even on my radar. Because at that point, John Green, I think he was maybe vlogging, but he would have just started.
Yeah.
I think he was vlogging a lot, but I didn't know who he was at all. And I knew him first as an author before I ever knew him as a YouTube personality. But just before we started recording tonight, Liz was watching John Green's recommendations of books that people should read, and I thought that was kind of fun.
we're connected. We know what's up.
I thought that was kind of
Problem
funny,
is she's actually reading those books, and I'm just staring at covers, being like, "Oh, it's so pretty."
Well, there was one, and I'm like, I'm gonna see who's read more of these books, and it was actually Hank Green doing this one. It was books that he recommends or something. And oh no, it was a song. Hank Green did a song about how all these YA books aren't Harry Potter. And so we're looking at the book covers that are flashing up, and I was so proud because I still have read 2 more of those books than she has that he mentioned in the song. So I'm like, I'm still winning, but that's not for long because she's reading so much more. And of course, she's just started reading young adult books in the last couple of years, and I read them for years and years and years because I worked with teens and all of that. So I was proud. For a short period of time more, I'm still beating her on the amount of books that I've read versus her in some song video. I take my victories where I can.
But admit it, you'll be proud when she beats you too.
Oh well, I'm glad. I mean, I was a pretty big reader as a teenager, but I think she just blows me out of the water with how much she reads.
See, my problem is I'm a slow reader, and usually slow readers have much better memory retentions. I don't have that either. So it could take me several weeks to get halfway through a book, and if I get distracted and put it down and I pick it up later, then I feel like I have to read that first half of the book again before I can continue with the story, because I don't remember anything from the first half of the book at that point. So sometimes it can take me a very long time to get through a book, and I'll have several false starts where I'll read a few chapters and I'll put it down and I'll pick it up a couple months later and then feel like I just have to start over.
Yeah, I'm like that too. I don't remember, if I reread a book, unless it's one I have read multiple times, I remember very little about the book. I might remember a character's name or I might remember a setting, but for me to remember what exactly happened, a lot of times I'll remember the end, but I can't remember how they got there. A lot of times I don't even remember that. And it's, I don't know why, because I remember other stuff, but books for some reason, they really have to just have struck me in some sort of way for me to remember a whole lot about them.
Typically speaking, for me, I will start a book here, and start a book there, and start a book here, and start a book there, and it'll take me, a week or two to read through the first couple of chapters even, and then every once in a while, I will get that one book, or get to that one point in one book where it hooks me. And at that point, the book is done, with the next 24 to 48 hours. And
yeah.
That's my 2 reading levels. It's either, barely at all, or it is all-consuming, and I have to spend every waking minute reading this book until it's gone.
I tend to finish every book I start, whether I like it or not. I can't understand that, really.
No, I can't either.
I used to be the same way though. And especially, I think a lot of that. Even before I was working in a library, but definitely after I started working in a library, I would see every book through that I started. But I gave up on that. I don't do that anymore.
Also, I don't always want to read real good books. Sometimes I just want to read a book that's got a fast narrative and some action, and and then after I read one of those, I'll pick up a real good science fiction or fantasy book that's really good literature, and I'll go, oh man, this is good, but after I talk through it, you know what I'm saying, I'm not ready for another real good book. I want something just to escape.
You got to have that palate cleanse.
Yeah.
Get your
some James Fenimore Cooper in between my Melville and my Faulkner.
Yeah.
Except I don't read any of those anymore.
In the movie world, those are called popcorn flicks. So.
Yep.
Those are your popcorn books.
Every once in a while, I'll be like, all right, just finished watching The Moon. I think next on the list is going to be Kung Fury.
I think my reasoning for wanting to see books through to the end, especially things I've read all the way through, I've skimmed all the way through the Twilight series, and I think the reason I did that is because I wanted to be educated when I, explained to people the problems the series had. I didn't want to just blindly hate it. I wanted to actually know what was wrong with it. Because I hate people that just, like, hate things that they don't have any, like, actual educated reasons for hating it. They're just kind of, you know.
You want to have an educated hate.
I want to have an educated hate. I feel like that's the lesser of the hates, the educated hate.
I made a lot of people mad with that book because I read 3.5 books exactly. Like, I read the first 3, and then I made it halfway through the 4th, and I'm like, I am just done with this. I was like, there is no reason for me to end this series. I really don't care.
I did the opposite. I made it through the first half, and I was like, all right, that's enough education for me. I hate it.
I think Devin read 1 chapter, and he's like, nope. Not at all.
Well, once I start a book, I usually finish it, so I'm very careful not to start the Twilight series.
You'll be sucked in, Dad. You'll be like, what's going to happen next? Who will she choose? Meow. All right.
Oh. Wow.
Hi, kitty, kitty.
Task lists and cloaks and I don't know what else we talked about, and cats meowing and freaking role-playing games and books, and we finally made it to the end of what's caused us to geek out lately. It's quite the segment. We are going to take a break, and we're going to come back real shortly.
You're listening to the Related to Geeks podcast, the podcast about a geeky family. For more episodes, visit our website at relatedtogeeks.com, our YouTube channel, or our Tumblr blog.
Alright everybody, welcome back. Our topic for this week is Geek Nostalgia. We figured going into the holiday season, time to reflect back on our yesteryears, our times of young geekdom, of just the magical geekiness that we grew up with and were allowed to experience thanks to our awesome parents who were super geeky as well and shared those times with us. So this is going to be a fun one, and I'm going to open it up for conversation right now. Geek Nostalgia. Everybody jump in.
Well, I think for me, the big geek nostalgia, and I got to relive this recently, is Hero Quest. And Mom and Dad bought my brother and I Hero Quest when we were like 10 and 11 years old, and we just dug it. We got so far into it. We played every quest in the base game and bought the expansions and played all of those games, and then just made up our own quests and played those games. And of course that led right into Dungeons and Dragons. And it's hard for me to be nostalgic about Dungeons and Dragons because I kind of just never stopped playing Dungeons and Dragons. But Hero Quest I can still be real nostalgic about, and a few years ago, Carl, my brother, got it for me for my birthday. I've got it up in my closet now, and every once in a while I'll get it out and I'll play it with some friends, and it's still absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I even remember playing that with y'all a couple of times when you first had it as kids. So.
Yep.
It was pretty fun.
Yeah.
It was pretty fun.
I've actually worked on a game design kind of based off of that recently, and I sat down with my brother and played it, and I need to pick back up on that design because it was highly enjoyable. It focused a little bit more on teamwork and team roles and things like that.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that you found it hard to be nostalgic about like D&D because you still play it so much, and I kind of feel that way about Hero Quest. Not that I play it a huge amount now, but I feel like I've played it a pretty consistent amount through the years, and so that one didn't even really enter my radar when I was thinking about things that really make me nostalgic. It makes me excited. I'm always excited to play Hero Quest. but I don't have that same nostalgia. But you probably played it a lot.
Yeah.
Whereas I was always kind of just still a casual player back then.
The thing about Hero Quest is that although it has like a role-playing veneer, it's really a strategy game. And it's really a cooperative strategy game. So you're playing, the team is playing against the game. So you can role-play in it, you know, but it's not the mechanics of the game. It's just laid on top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the closest thing that really comes to the role-playing element is the idea of having, you know, a dungeon master who controls all the monsters while the other people control a single hero. And it gets that feeling, you know. I think there's just slight role-playing elements in there because of that.
You can take on a role and work with your team based on that role, but taking on that role doesn't give you any extra abilities or anything like that. It's just still strategy, moving its in a sense more like battle games or war games, except it's in a dungeon setting and it's in a fantasy setting with monsters instead of enemies. But very interesting game.
So on that note, I want to mention the Dragon Strike board game because it was very similar to Hero Quest in a lot of ways. And it's been a long time since I've played it, but what I recently discovered online is the VHS that they released with it, which was like a short, supposedly instructional video, but it was really just kind of a comical narrative of the quote-unquote story of the game. And it is fantastic.
Let's just call it what it is. It's a palate cleanser.
Oh, it's the best of palate cleansers, though. Man. I tell you, you watch something like Fox and the Hound and you feel like the world is just the worst place ever and you're just going to cry for like a year, and then you turn around, you watch that, and you're fine. It's going to be great.
Yep. It is.
I don't even know anything about it or what you're talking about. So
we'll link it.
So
yeah, we'll link it so hard.
Yeah, Dragon Strike was D&D the board game, and it was very, very modeled after earlier edition of Dungeons & Dragons. I think second ed, and they did a little video where it followed the adventures of an adventuring party in Dragon Strike, and let me tell you. It is probably in my top 3 D&D movies of all time. But it is awful. It is.
It's so bad it's good, John.
Oh, it is.
It's fantastic bad. Fantastic bad.
Oh goodness.
Like as soon as I get off this phone, I'm going to watch that.
Oh man. But anyway, I had to bring that up. It was important to me.
One of my nostalgia things, which is probably gonna maybe show my age a little bit, but when I was a younger me, probably about 7 or so, Dad used to take me up to the college, and we would go get on the computers, and I would play with the logo programming, and I'm pretty sure I called it turtle graphics, or I don't know what I called. I probably just called it drawing with the turtle, but man, I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Well, that leads into my Geek Nostalgia, which is the 8-bit Atari computers, and in my opinion, they were a lot better than the much more popular Commodore computers. But Atari was like overwhelmed by their own success in the game market. Their console games dominated, and so people didn't really realize that the Atari 400 and 800 were actually usable computers. But they did have cartridges, and you could plug games into them, and that's where a lot of the nostalgia for the Atari computers comes, is those console games that you could play on them.
I think my big nostalgia console game was probably going to be the Nintendo, and specifically one game, which would be River City Ransom. And man, Carl and I, my brother Carl and I, we would just play the heck out of that game growing up. And yeah, it's, beat 'em up meets RPG, and it was probably, in my opinion, definitely in my opinion, the best game on the Nintendo Entertainment System, and probably going to be in anyone's top 10 list who's ever played it.
My nostalgia console of choice is DOS.
All right, Megan, I am older than you.
I was about to say, I'm with Dad with the Atari, because that's definitely, we had an Atari 2600, and then we had the Atari 400, which was the computer, and then the Atari 800 XL, which was a more advanced computer. Was that a 16-bit?
No, it just had a better keyboard.
Yeah, it did have a better keyboard, because the Atari 400 had a...
It may have been a little faster or had a little more RAM, but
yeah.
Who knew, Vivian would agree with Megan on DOS. Vivian used to love to play Hack and NetHack and those adventure games that are text-based.
Yes.
I like to play the accounting program. I was good at that game.
I know this story.
To be fair, Kier, though, a lot of what I did play on DOS were Nintendo ROMs, so, splitting hairs there a little bit. But, I think if I were to pick a specific game that just, oozed nostalgia for me, it would be Doom. Doom, absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be a big one for me, too.
Just...
Commander Keen.
Also good.
Yeah.
I played a lot of Commander Keen.
Did you ever get into making your own levels, Megan?
On Doom? Or on...
Yeah.
I remember playing some ones that you worked on, but I'm not sure if I ever really got invested to that point.
Yeah.
I just liked shooting things.
I was obsessed with that level maker.
I remember, I don't know how old I was. I was too young to be playing Doom, most likely. But I remember I had played with cheats for the longest time. And I would forget them, and I would ask Kier to enter in the cheats for me, and he just got sick of it. And so he was just like, just try playing without the cheats. Just try it. And I played it without the cheats, and I beat, Doom 2 in a couple of days. Which apparently...
Yep.
is still, to some people, preposterous that you can beat Doom 2 without cheats, which I'd never understood because I never thought it was that difficult. But some people are really struggle with that game.
Yeah. I once killed an afternoon. Yeah. I once killed an afternoon killing a cyber demon with a pistol just to see if it could be done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just dodging missiles. It took 3 hours just shooting it with a pistol over and over again. And eventually I killed it. And I was like, yep. All right, I did
Worth it.
Yeah. That was when I was younger and had a longer attention span.
Well, I will say, I picked up, years after, not playing it for the longest time, I picked up Doom again. And I was just like, something's off. I can't figure out what's wrong, but this version of Doom isn't working the way I remember Doom working, and I kept trying to play it and it just wasn't working. And then I realized I hadn't been strafing for any of the game, and that's really 90% of the game. So I was just like, oh yeah, this is really important. But I played through a huge chunk of it without strafing, and I was just like, oh, this is way easier now. So I wonder if people just didn't understand the strafe mechanic and playing that game, and that's why they struggled so hard.
Could be. Now, going back to it, I can't play it anymore, like the original Doom 2, that kind of stuff, because it's weird that I cannot look up and down. And, yep. So,
just throws you off.
Yep. I'm not nostalgic for the no looking up and down.
Oh, I can still play it. It doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah. Now, recently, I say recently, like towards the end of the Doom 2 life that I was really playing it, some guy released a mod that allowed you to look up and down and actually aim and fire. And that was totally worth it.
There's a ton of mods for it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I never did see the Doom movie. Did you ever see the Doom movie? Was that worth watching?
Just YouTube the first person perspective part of it, and that's pretty much all you need to watch. The part that they filmed in first person perspective is actually pretty enjoyable, but it only lasts like 3 minutes. But I have seen the movie. I got really excited for the first person perspective part. And remembered nothing else about that movie.
I actually, speaking back on books that I would consume in like a day, I read through the entire Doom novels. I think I still have them.
Ooh.
They're really bad.
I'm sensing a pattern with you, Kier.
Here's this thing that I like that I really hate now. It was really awful, but I loved it.
Well, Star Trek was really awful, and I was never really into it. And I've never been really nostalgic for Star Trek. Some of the later versions were better, and I think they're talking about doing another Star Trek now. But the thing I am nostalgic for in my geek television nostalgia is Batman with Adam West. Now that is actually out of my high school age childhood, and it never went away. People still love how camped out it was and how just off the wall the Adam West Batman was.
I actually recently watched a few episodes of that with Wendy. I think Wendy's still a little young for it. She doesn't quite get it. And doesn't enjoy it in the way that I do. She's like, Dad, this is real stupid.
Yeah. The only show comparable that was similar was Get Smart.
I never did watch any of that. I mean, I've heard the name, and I know they recently did the movie.
Yeah, you should watch Get Smart sometime. It's also stupid.
You'd love it.
I was trying to explain Wendy. Yeah, I know it's stupid. That's why it's good. But she just didn't get it. He was like, can we watch Bill Nye instead? And I was like, yeah, I'm nostalgic about that too.
Yeah, I was totally about to bring up Bill Nye. I was totally about to just cut you off and be like, okay, so nostalgic things. Bill Nye, yeah, that. Because that's one for me for sure.
Bill Nye with Wendy as well. She loves Bill Nye as much as I did. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love being able to share the things that I was nostalgic about with my daughter, and I love it whenever she's all excited about it too. It's always kind of disappointing though whenever she's like, you know, Dad, could we just not do this? Let's just.
Wendy knows what she likes.
Yeah.
I also want to just throw out just a blanket nostalgia for PBS in general. There's too many shows to list, but PBS in general, just that was what I was raised on as far as television. I didn't do the Nickelodeons or the Disneys. I did my public broadcast, and it was great.
Yep.
There are too many shows to list, but at the top of that list is Arthur.
Arthur's absolutely up there. Mr. Rogers, Sesame Street. Oh, it's just too many. It's too many. Zoom. I remember Zoom. Zoom was awesome.
Yeah.
Of course, when I was young, there was the Electric Company, which, they tried to reboot that one later, and it was not the Electric Company. I do know that. Like, when Liz was little, they tried to reboot it, and I was like, this is not. I would rather them just show the old shows.
Reading Rainbow is back.
Yes. Of course, Reading Rainbow and all of those were I was kind of at the upper age limit for that when that came out, but I still watched it because I thought it was an awesome show.
And there is, of course, a cross-reference to Star Trek there because of Geordi.
Yep.
Except Reading Rainbow was before TNG, so. And during, and after.
You know, whenever he kickstarted it, one of the awards that you could go for was having dinner with LeVar Burton, and he would bust out the visor and would let you wear it. And that was one of the things, if you wanted to back, however, it was a ridiculous amount, but it was totally worth it to some people.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
And also,
this is still.
Also in the Next Generation was Wesley Crusher, who remains geeky.
Yes.
I remember watching a lot of like Nova and the National Geographic specials that PBS would show when I was a kid. I really liked both of those shows a lot, especially I think the National Geographic animal shows.
Well, we got one of these smart TVs, you know, and so I started watching, you know, like a lot of TED Talks and Nova and stuff like that. I didn't want my TV to think I was stupid.
On that same train, the show that popped up in my mind that I'm super nostalgic for, and I don't really know why, I still don't know why I love this show as much as I do, but can we all just agree that Antiques Roadshow is fantastic?
Oh man, that's the best.
And the British version is even better than the American version.
Well, that's the case with most things. I will still stand by that I think British Office is way better than the American Office. I may be in the minority there, but you know.
I didn't watch all the way through the Office series, the British one, but when I started watching the American one, I was like, the British one is so much better, and I got into arguments with people about it. But I didn't see how it ended, so it was probably one of those arguments that I probably shouldn't have been having because I didn't watch the whole.
Yeah, you have to be educated. You have to be educated to hate.
I didn't hate it. I mean, we watched all of The Office. We watched all however many millions of seasons it was, but I did not watch all of the British series. That's where I fell down. Like, because I was watching them with Devin, and he lost interest in the British. So, because he started watching the American version, I think, and he liked it better.
That fool.
Well, I can say with absolute certainty that the British Doctor Who is better than the American Doctor Who.
Yeah, Doctor Who was not. It's funny. I'm nostalgic for a show I hated. Like, I absolutely just did not enjoy watching Doctor Who, but we did it. Like Sunday mornings, you know, I can remember everybody getting together and watching Doctor Who, and I kind of felt like I was being forced to watch it. But like in my older years, I'm super nostalgic for it, and I haven't watched Doctor Who since then. So it's kind of one of those weird things that happen.
They're just making sure you were educated.
Yeah.
I really liked K9. I think K9 got me to watch it more than anything else. But
didn't K9 have his own show for a while?
Yeah, I think there was like a spinoff with K9 and maybe Sarah. I don't know.
No, I know that there was that, but I think there was either a movie or a show that was, again, geared more towards kids that was just the adventures of Doctor Who's robot dog.
Oh, I don't know about that. There may be.
I mean, honestly, when you've been around as long as Doctor Who has, you have some weird spin-offs, so it just comes with the territory.
It's like the movie Doctor Who and the Daleks, in which Doctor Who does not appear.
I feel like, Sarah, on what you said about being nostalgic about a show that you don't really like, I feel like that's the X-Files for me. Like, I remember Mom watching the X-Files, and something about that show, like, always brings me back to childhood, and there's something about that, but I don't know if I could ever really sit down and watch it.
Yeah, that was something that I was not in. I mean, I was definitely an adult by the time the X-Files was out, and I had friends that watched it every week. Like, they had to be home to watch it, and it was never anything that interested me. And even, I mean, recently, like in the past few years, because Devin never really watched it either, and so the three of us sat down to watch it, and I don't think we made it through 2 episodes. So I just, I don't know. I know there's a lot of people out there who love it, but it was not anything that ever captured my attention very well.
Rosemary, my wife, Rosemary, is a huge X-Files fan, and she was one of those people who had to watch it every single week as soon as it came out. It was to the point where when she got into big trouble one time, her parents grounded her for 1 hour during the week, and it was the hour X-Files was on. She just hated them. It was like, that is the worst punishment you could ever do. But, yeah, we actually recently revisited it, and I think we've made it through the first season so far, and we'll probably continue watching it. So.
Yeah, I haven't tried it as an adult. Like, recently I have not tried it. But I remember trying to watch it with Mom, and I was just like, nope, not for me.
Yeah. I mean, you'd think, like, after season 3, Scully would be like, alright, maybe there's some aliens. You know, I mean, maybe there doesn't have to be a reasonable scientific explanation for this that could be explained here on Earth. Maybe, just maybe, it's actually a demon from hell.
Dad, are you talking? No.
You sound like you were about a mile away from the microphone.
It sounds like you're across the room shouting at like.
Oh, sorry. I like the sequel a lot better, The Y-Files.
The Y-Files? I think on that note.
I think at some point in the middle of that, I realized what he was saying. I could barely hear him, and I realized what he was saying.
I forgot which microphone I was using.
This is only a problem in your house, Dad.
There's microphones everywhere.
I do have over 100 microphones. This is the definition of geek obsession.
Yeah. No doubt.
Okay, so I'm going to throw out one more thing before we wrap up this topic, but I feel like with this particular group, we have to mention it before we wrap up this topic. But Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, and Xena, Warrior Princess.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if more needs to be said than that, but
yes, of course.
Nostalgia.
I totally recently started watching that again, and I will tell you this. Rosemary 100% does not get it.
Doesn't get it.
Yep, she's just like, this is the dumbest show. And I'm like, I know, isn't it great?
I was never a big
the
fan.
He's very tidy.
I'm that naysayer again because I was not a big fan of it at all.
He's so amidst the sin.
When things get grim,
like,
he'll take it on the chin.
I'm sure I am. But I think also the first time I watched it, it was definitely like well into the series and all of that. I don't think that I watched it at the beginning.
Well, that's probably the correct way to do it.
You just watch them at random.
Just
And Sarah, you just have to watch the Xena version of Groundhog Day. You must watch the Xena version of Groundhog Day, and then you will get it.
it all makes sense.
I did not know there was such a thing. So.
Here's how I recommend watching Hercules and Xena now to try to like get into it and really kind of understand. Go and find like a recommended marathon list or a best of or something like that, and just jump to those specific episodes because it really isn't serialized in any way. It's very standalone. There's very little that you'll miss by jumping around like that.
Until the end of the Xena series.
Yeah, at the very end of Xena, it does turn the course a little bit from the show previous.
But like one episode they'd be in the French Revolution, one episode they'd be in L.A. I mean, they were there at the birth of Christ, and they were there for every major mythological event that ever happened. You know, there is no attempt to be chronologically correct.
So I think this is how I watched Hercules and Xena. I think it came on about the time that I moved away. And I think that whenever I would visit home, y'all would watch Xena or Hercules or whatever was on, and I'd be like, I do not get this. And that was basically the whole thing of it was this was just it never captured me at all.
And also, once again, I like the sequel better, Hercules in Space, also known as Andromeda.
You know, I never watched that one. I watched
Andromeda is
Farscape.
great, and it really does have an arc. You really want to go start to finish. Andromeda is great.
All right, I'll have to add that to my list of shows to watch.
A never-ending list.
Yep.
All right. Well, I feel satisfied. I couldn't end that topic without bringing up Hercules and Xena. It would have hurt me in my soul.
Agreed.
So anyway, if there's nothing else, anything else, we're good.
I'm good.
We just pretty much any time randomly we'll start talking about something from our childhood. So it's not like this is the last time we're going to talk about things that are nostalgic to us. It's just we wanted a focused time to talk about some specific things that we haven't brought up before or only brought up in small doses. So now that we're done with our topic of the week, we're going to take another short break and we're going to come back with our picks of the week. Be back real soon.
Download the podcast MP3s at our website, relatedtogeeks.com. You can also listen on our YouTube channel and our Tumblr. We link to everything we talk about in our show notes.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We are going to wrap up this show, as always, with our picks of the week, and we're going to start with Kier. What is your pick of the week?
My pick of the week actually comes from a game that I played for the first time tonight. My buddy Brandon was so nice to purchase a $300 game that I've been wanting to try, and I was one of the lucky people that he chose to come try it out for the first time. That's Kingdom Death, and it is a miniature strategy, giant monster hunting, take the muscles and bones and make new, better armor and weapons so that you can go fight bigger monsters and build up your town. And it's a big campaign, cooperative, I don't know, Monster Hunter the board game. And man, the miniatures are so cool. My buddy is also a fantastic painter, so I'll see if I can grab some pictures of the miniatures that he's painted and post them up with the links, because he's done the effects where he's painted the lantern light on the stone floor and reflecting off of the people carrying the lanterns, and it's just a really cool effect.
So do you know who publishes that game?
No clue.
Okay.
I know it was kickstarted. I want to say it's kind of an indie publisher, but I could be wrong.
Most board game publishers are kind of indie publishers, so it doesn't narrow it down a whole lot.
I know that the bulk of the money for it was just the sheer number of miniatures that you got with it, and it's one of those games that, I mean, the guy who created the game really tried to take that video game feel where you upgrade your character and you get new armor and weapons and things like that, and translate it into the board game, because it comes with 4 heroes out the box, and those 4 heroes are upgradable throughout the game. So there's like, I don't know, 3 or 4 different armor sets for them. So you end up with like 16 heroes, and there's expansions you can get to get additional heroes with all the different armor sets and weapons and things like that. And it's
That's pretty cool.
Game. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah.
Okay, I just had an idea for a print and play game. That's similar idea. You know, it would be like paper dolls.
Mm-hmm.
Print and play paper dolls, and you could change armor. You know.
Yeah.
Be cool.
I've played a lot of Sentinels of the Multiverse, and there's so many of these already existing comic book hero paper doll creators, and there are so many. Cool. Yeah, and there's so many print-on-demand game services like the Game Crafter, and I think Two Cows does it, and another card shop that does it. I can't remember what it's called. But I would love to see the Sentinels come up with some means of creating your own superhero, and then, you know, using some kind of standard deck builder, choose 2 types of powers or something like that, and then you upload your graphics, and it just makes you a custom superhero deck based on your own superhero. That's a thing that I think should exist. So, come on, Sentinels of the Multiverse designers, get on it.
Get with it. They're clearly amongst our listeners, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're just sitting there like, when's the next Related Geeks podcast coming out? When's the next one? I need it now.
I do believe I've actually met one of the designers of Sentinels, but.
Well, did you tell him what he needed to make?
Did you?
It was 2 years ago, or
you missed your chance.
And I'm not even sure that I met one of the designers, but I met people from the publishing company that do it, because they're a St. Louis company. And if you've listened at all, you realize that we go to St. Louis a lot.
We should just leave them a note. Like, go up to their door and, like, put a post-it there
To,
and be like, make this.
To clarify the importance of the Related to Geek podcast, in the early days of the Flying Hungarians, anytime we would add a song to our repertoire, someone would cover it and have a hit. They were watching us. You know what I'm saying? We'd add a song, next thing you know, someone else would cover it and it'd be on the radio. So be careful what you say. Just tell them. They're listening. If you got a really good game idea, you might not want to mention it on Related to Geeks podcast. It'll be everywhere. I think the NSA might be listening.
Well, that's for certain.
No, I don't mean just capturing. I think they're actually listening.
No, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
It's really like, at this point, just family, close friends, and the NSA.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the creators of Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Yeah.
That's our audience.
That's our audience. That's our target audience. It's real niche.
And, you know, hip-hop artists trying to come up with the next thing. Just wait. You'll turn on the radio and it'll be Jockster Rap.
All right. So, Kier, you're done. Dad, I feel like you're still in the show anyway, so what's your pick?
Okay, I'm going back to my Geek Out. When I was looking for a place to host demo of my new GPL program, Personal Task Manager. I didn't really want to put it on one of my web hosts because when you put up a demo like that, sometimes bad things happen. So I wanted to find some free web hosting. And I found this just by, looking around and trying different ones, and I found a real good one. It's called Awardspace at awardspace.com. And they give you free web hosting with PHP and MySQL, and it's limited disk space and limited bandwidth, but way more than most personal websites are ever going to need. And they also include a WordPress or a Zoomla install, But you can also just upload your own stuff, too. So, but, your auto-install, so I auto-installed the WordPress. The thing about it is, though, is that they do not provide a subdomain for you or anything. You have to have a domain name. So, of course, I was trying to avoid $10 a year. So I started looking for free domains. They recommended a .tk free domain, but I never could get that to work. But I did find this registry.cu.cc that gives free domains. They said up to 100 free domains with the .cu.cc. And I've been wanting to get mixremix.cu.cc. I used to have mixremix.com, and over the years, that's the only domain I've ever lost through neglect. And it's hurt me ever since. And now I am no longer... I wanted to get mixremix.cc because Creative Commons, and use it to host Creative Commons or reusable content, either public domain or Creative Commons or whatever license, But the CC domains are expensive. They're $20 or $30 a year. So I got the mixremix.cu.cc for free. This is the deal. The Awardspace, they give you free web hosting, but then they'll sell you regular web hosting for $2.99 a month, business for $5.99, etc. So they're a business that's using the free web hosting as the gateway for their customers. You get the free web hosting, you see what a good service they have, but you need to host more domains or something like that, and so you pay $3 a month. Registry.cu.cc is a little trickier to figure that out, but they also allow you to upgrade to a paid account. So what they've done is they have got the this is just what I'm thinking. They have got the cu.cc as a top-level domain, just like co.uk. Okay? Mm-hmm. They've got that, and they own that. And then they also registered cu.cc as a domain under the .cc domain. That's costing them $20 a year to have cu.cc. So when you get a free domain, you don't get a whoever's registry because you are a subdomain off of their cu.cc. But since they also own the cu.cc top-level domain, if you want to move up to paid, then you get a regular domain under a top-level domain with all of that. Who is listings and all of that entails. So it's a pretty clever way that they've managed to offer what are apparently, regular domains, just like myspace.co.uk, which is a very common, a top-level domain. So free domains and free web space at Awardspace and registry.cu.cc, and you can have a WordPress and do PHP coding or install my new GPL code, Personal Task Manager.
I have to say that I think that's actually really clever how they're doing the subdomain.
I'm pretty sure that's what they're doing. They kind of have to be to offer it as a paid domain and as a free domain, and the clue was that the free domain has no who is listing.
Yeah.
So it's really, yeah.
And I'll also say that, I have I feel like whenever you register a web URL, you should just pay the $10 a year for it forever, because it comes out to very little money out of your pocket, and I always regret every domain that I've ever let go because I can never get it back now.
Yeah, because once you let it go, it's already got traffic to it, and someone's picked it up, and they're trying to sell it for $200.
Yep.
You know, and I mean, I'm all about getting something back, but I don't want to spend $100 or $200 to get something back and maybe not use it, you know. And I also didn't like the idea of mixremix.com. At the time, you know, you had a few choices, and they were all the same price, you know. But really, the idea of mixremix is supposed to be reusable content, and the idea of .com is supposed to be your business, you know. I realize that isn't all exactly true anymore. I always recommend that whenever you get a domain, whether it's for a band or an organization or anything, that you always get the .com, because that's the thing people remember. It's the most common. Mm-hmm. But I like the .cu.cc. Also, URLs, the rememberability of the URLs is no longer as important as it used to be, because everybody links. Nobody types in the address bar anymore. Everybody searches and links.
Well, I can say, working at a newspaper, anytime I have to like type out a link to, you know, put in the newspaper, I'm just thinking, gosh, nobody's going to type all this in to go to this website. It's just too much. Even short ones, it feels like it's too much. Especially when you can just Google, like, you know, the, you know, unique parts of it and be like, all right, that's it, found it.
Well, I did just this last year come up with a new band name, because, you know, George retired, and Heyl and George. And, of course, when you're coming up with a new band name, you want to check that you can get a URL for that band. And it has to be something that you can say from the stage and the audience can remember. And so that means short, and etc. And so my answer was, the band name was Harry Larry's Merry Pranksters, and my URL for Harry Larry's Merry Pranksters is hlmp.info. So in 2014, I picked up a 4-letter domain name, hlmp.info. And I can say, for information about Harry Larry's Merry Pranksters, go to hlmp.info.
One of the domains I regret letting go was I used to have goblin.com with the missing I, so it's kind of like a set of Flickr where you get you know, missing E. I had goblin with the missing I, and I even had a logo done up with a goblin with a pirate patch, because it was a goblin with the missing I.
Yeah.
And and I ended up not renewing that because I was changing the name of my publishing from Goblin Games to Wizard Beard Games, and I let it go. And man, it's one of the domains that I really regret letting go, because it was 5 letters, it was memorable. It's gone now, and now it's hundreds of dollars.
So keep your domains, people. Just keep them.
Yeah. This public service announcement brought to you by
the Related to Geeks podcast.
I was trying to come up with something more clever than that, but it's late.
At relatedtogeeks.com.
Which we should never, ever let expire.
Never.
Okay. So, Megan, what have you been geeking out about lately? Or what's it?
Just say that again, Kier.
All right, I'll try. So, Megan, what have you been geeking out of?
You did it perfectly. You said it exactly the same time.
So, what's your pick of the week, Megan? I say in the middle of the laugh, so it'll be really hard to edit later.
He's not editing any of that out. That's gold right there. My pick of the week is one that I am still trying to figure out if I love it or just really like it, but I think I'm going to end up loving it based off the first 2 episodes, but that's Jessica Jones on Netflix.
Man.
I've just watched the first 2 episodes, but it's really good. I love the pacing. I love the cinematography. It's just a gorgeous show, and I'm really enjoying what I've watched so far, and I'm excited to watch more.
I feel like it's going to be one of those shows that wears you out.
Oh, yeah. Just exhausting.
It's so good, but man, you're just so tense throughout every single moment of every single episode.
You immediately need that palate cleanse afterwards. Just go watch Dragon Strike.
Yeah.
I recommend Jessica Jones, shortly followed by Dragon Strike. That's how you do it. But anyway, I love the shorter arcs, allowing for like a really tight story, and I think the way that Netflix is doing a lot of those, where it's like a 13 episode season, or it really makes it feel like every moment counts, and I've really felt it with this show. I'm only 2 episodes in, and I'm already so like just ugh. But yeah, I'm excited about it.
I'll tell you why I like Jessica Jones. Because it reminds me of the Wildman Fisher classic. Miss Jennifer Jones is lying down on my porch. Do 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 do. Miss Jennifer Jones.
You sang that recently, but I don't think it was because we were talking about Jessica Jones. So apparently a lot of things remind you of that. I don't think it was
about Jessica Jones.
I don't think it was.
You said Jessica Jones, yes.
No, I think it was something else. I think it was another Jones name. Just any Jones name. And you're like, yep, that's my song.
Well, it's a good song.
Well, all right. So clearly, you should watch Jessica Jones and then write the parody.
I have Netflix.
Amazing.
It's not
George got the ground.
impossible.
We're in a Netflix lull right now, so we haven't seen any of it. We every once in a while we'll be like, okay, well we're not really watching it because YouTube's free, so
Yeah.
we'll stop our subscription, and then 6 months later we're like, okay, well there's probably new stuff on Netflix now, so we'll re-up it for a few months, and then so it's one of those things that we will renew and drop a lot, and right now we're in a lull.
Part of the genius in the Netflix business plan is that it's easy to renew and drop. Whereas the cable providers never want to let you go.
Personally, my favorite thing to watch on Netflix is the Netflix selection screen that I scroll through for an hour.
Trying to find one damn shit worth watching.
That's usually our cue that it's time to let it go, and we're doing that, and there's nothing we really are on to. It's like, okay, well, it's time to let it go for a little while. So.
Well, the really genius thing is that it's cheap enough that even if you just really want to watch one thing, you're like, I'll get it for the month, and I'll watch that one thing, and I might watch a few more things to get my value out of it, and then I'll just cancel it. But then you forget to cancel it, and you get it, and you're like, it's so cheap, and I'll watch a couple things throughout the month to make it worth it. And then you forget to cancel it, and you're like, it's just so cheap, and I'll just watch a few more things to make it worth it. It's brilliant. I do enjoy some Netflix, but I'm kind of in that same boat where I just occasionally go to it, and like I'll get absorbed into a few episodes of a new show that's on there and watch the entire run, and then I'll go back to YouTube. So that's generally been my pattern as well.
I'm watching a Netflix-produced anime series called The Seven Deadly Sins. And it's a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
I've heard good things about it. So.
All right, Sarah. You have not shared a pick of the week yet, have you?
No, I haven't.
You should do that right about nowsies.
So yeah, we don't have Netflix, but we have Hulu, and we were scrolling through the other day. Liz and I we were looking for something to watch. Devin was playing a game on the computer, and I happened across Benny and Joon, which I have not seen probably since Liz was a baby. And I think I'd only seen it like shortly after it came out. So, in the 20 plus years it's been out, this was the third time I've watched it. And I had forgotten what a good movie that is. And
Yep.
Liz was absolutely just taken in with it and just giggling through it and really absorbed in the story. And so that's my pick, is Benny and Joon. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. If you haven't seen it in a while, go watch it again, because it's easy to kind of just forget what a good movie it is. Because I think I had that same feeling when I watched it, 15 years ago, was, wow, I kind of remember that was an awesome movie.
I can't believe it's been that long since you last watched it. I can't imagine that going that long without watching Benny and Joon.
It's one of my favorite movies, and thank you, because I'm definitely due to watch that movie again.
So, yeah, and for people who don't know what Benny and Joon is a story about a woman who has a mental illness, and she basically wins Johnny Depp's character. Mary Stuart Masterson plays the woman, and she basically wins Johnny Depp's character in a poker game. Basically, the guy just doesn't want his cousin staying with him, and she's being taken care of by her brother, and her brother's having a hard time with it and is thinking about putting her in a home. And then this guy kind of just becomes her caretaker. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And he's way out there eccentric too. I should mention that.
Yeah.
That's
Well, it is Johnny Depp.
Johnny
so.
Depp.
Yeah,
Johnny Depp, but it's
It's actually
probably
really
should-
kind of mild compared to some of Johnny Depp's roles.
But it's definitely not, not his Pirates of the Caribbean way out there. But it's a different way out there.
He
and
doesn't
it's
have
nice.
scissors for hands or anything like that.
He doesn't. And it was actually, I think, after Edward Scissorhands that he did this movie. But
Incidentally, I recently read that Johnny Depp's performance in Pirates of the Caribbean, for the first few days of the performance, all of the executives behind the movie was like, "He is ruining this film." And Johnny Depp was like, "Look, you hired me to do this. Let me do it my way. Or, fire me. Your choice." So they let him do it his way, and it turns out that was the right thing to do. But man, they were totally convinced that this is just going to be a flop because of him.
Well, I remember initially they wanted him to play the lead. They wanted him to play Orlando Bloom's character, and then he was like, "Nah, I don't want to play the wacky pirate. That's what I want to do." I'm not the guy that plays I'm not the straight man. No, that doesn't work for me. Sorry.
that's awesome. I did not know that story. But yeah, I really like Johnny Depp's early work a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I really like a lot of his earlier movies. I really like Edward Scissorhands. I really like Cry Baby. I really like oh my gosh, the What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Yeah.
I mean, I really still think that his best work was in those kind of late 80s, early 90s movies. And yeah, you're right. It's amazing that I went that long without watching it. And I don't think that I say that. I don't think I'm going to let it happen again. But, in 10 more years, I'll be like, my pick of the week is Benny and Joon. I forgot how awesome of a movie that is.
Well, at least we'll still be doing the podcast in 10 years, so that's good.
That's how it's working in my head anyway. But and I also love that it's a movie I can sit down and watch with my 14-year-old daughter, and she's like so totally into it. So, because most of the movies that I watch from that time frame, she's like, "Mom, this is dumb. Why are you watching this?"
It's like Wendy.
It's just like, Mom likes stupid movies. She's
funny
definitely
thing
got
is-
Where I
more.
get that from?
The funny thing
What's
is that the funny thing is that everybody was better before they got real popular. But in jazz, it's even worse. Once you get real popular, then you're terrible.
Did anybody notice me silently trying to sneak away and turn off my heat because it just kicked on and it was loud?
I didn't hear you
No.
or the heat. So,
So jazz, huh? That's a thing.
Yeah, jazz is the thing.
oh, goodness.
But if you want to be a jazz musician, you better never get popular, or you'll be terrible.
Yeah. All right. I think we are all equally ready for bed. So, on that note, we're gonna jazz hands our way out of this. See, look, connected, made it work. And this is the end of our 9th episode. We wish you all a very happy Turkey Day. Enjoy your turkey, unless you're Canadian and you already did that. And bye.
Bye.
Bye. The mighty
He's very tidy. Everyone admires him. He's so handsome, it's a sin.
So
When
good.
things get grim, he'll take it on the chin. Something other, something. He's Joxer. Joxer the mighty.
You're in jeopardy, captured by the enemy. No need to call the cavalry. There's a better remedy. Although he doesn't work for free. He's Joxer. Joxer the mighty.
Okay, now, Joxer the Mighty song is all couplets. So we need to do Joxer rap.
Joxer rap?
Yeah,
I
the
am-
Joxer rap.
oh, no.
It's all couplets, just like rap.
No.
Nope. I don't think he likes it. I think he'd get it.
We,
Clear.
we could beatbox and do the Joxer rap.
I want to be clear. I am absolutely fine with the concept of the Joxer rap. I am 100% against anyone in this particular podcast trying to form.
Buddy,
Mighty, he very tidy. Huh.